It's gonna be a great night tonight.
We're gonna buy the kneecap off.
Do what it do.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Filthy Football Casuals podcast. I'm your co-host, Carl. We've got Jon and Tom in the house. Back after a little break, a little off-season vacation for all of us, I think. But how's it going? How you boys doing?
We are in that.
Yeah.
This is the part when when we get paid, or we earn our keep, I guess. Not that we're getting paid anything, but
No.
This is where
Prove your mettle.
Trying to make content out of nothing that someone hasn't already hashed out, and try and make this is where it gets fun. So, but yeah, I've been good. Come back from Iceland was a great time. Really highly recommend anyone gets to go if you do get the chance. The scenery is just phenomenal. I again got to hike on a glacier, go into ice caves. Got to learn what a crampon is. If you don't know, they are spiky things that you wear on your
Ice
shoes.
climbing thingy, yeah.
Yep. Had no idea. Couldn't pronounce any word that they had anywhere. Yeah, but it was a wonderful time. Highly recommend.
Yeah, that's great. I think we were all in Philly for a little break, and then you took off straight from there.
Yep. And so I do have some. There is some international spread of the NFL. I will say.
I was gonna ask, yeah, what's the football like there?
But
They play it with a round ball.
I clap like this.
I was on in the airport, and I saw it was a Super Bowl champs, something Kansas City Chiefs, and I was like, is this from like this year? And it was a woman wearing a sweater that had this like this intricately stitched like. I wouldn't say it looked custom made just from the stitching of it, and again, Iceland being known for like doing that type of stuff, like their hand knit wool type of things. So that was really cool to see until she turns around, and of course, it says Swift in 87 on it, and I was like, no.
That's how we spread our culture. That's how it grows.
Oh, it hurts. So it was so cool to see, and then it just hurt. It just hurt me. So, I mean, it's spreading international. We see it in Iceland, or at least some part of.
Now Taylor Swift starts to date like around the NFL, right? Like, say things don't work out with Kelsey, and she starts dating players from other teams. That will help grow the sport even more, and I'm sure the NFL's approached her about it. So.
See, how do you know it doesn't work the other way around? Like, how do you know we're not bringing Taylor Swift's music to Iceland because of football and Kelsey? You know,
CMC is single, so.
Oh shoot! I'm going to tell my wife right now to get on that.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true, but I think he is.
Write him a postcard. You can find out.
Yeah.
Some football news. I don't know if you guys anything caught your eye in the last couple of weeks. It's been pretty quiet, I think, this part of the year.
Yeah, I think most teams also took some time off after the Super Bowl. It would seem to.
Yeah.
I mean, the combine started this week.
Yeah, underway, I believe.
Yeah.
I have not watched any of it, nor seen any news, nor.
No one's broken the 40 record, so that's usually the biggest news that ever comes out of that.
Got to imagine they save that for the weekend.
Yeah.
But the combine this weekend, and then I think the franchise tag deadline is Tuesday, and then I think free agency is the week after. So it ramps up real quick.
Seems quicker than years past, but it must be that 17th week or 17th game.
Probably it does, yeah.
Because I don't think it pushed the league year start back at all. I think it just pushed the Super Bowl up a week.
Yeah, I think you're right. But between that and the extended vacations we've all had,
right?
Yeah, time goes quick. I think something caught my eye today. Sorry, John, go ahead. What's on your mind?
No, I was just gonna. I mean, were you gonna go on? I'm talking about tagging. Just across the news today. I don't know if you guys have been following the L'Jarius Sneed.
No.
Kind of.
Some drama.
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing crazy. And again, it was just the fact that that they have allowed him to seek a trade as they're planning on tagging him. So I thought that was an interesting kind of like basically like shop yourself around, and you start the bidding at the salary tag or the franchise tag of 19.8 million, and that's your starting conversation, because that's what we're gonna pay you.
Would that be the same tag that like they put on Lamar last year?
It would be that, yeah, yep.
Like you got to beat this point to even like get the tag off him.
Oh, you got to give up the picks, and then you got to pay the salary. Yeah, so no one's gonna. That's right.
So he hasn't been tagged, right? It has not been. It has not happened yet, but I think that they're just letting him basically test. Like he's doing the shopping for himself, and they're just letting you know like what your floor is going to be, because this is what the tag amount is.
Right.
So yeah, kind of an interesting way to handle the tag in that particular situation. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But I'm sorry, I don't know if you were going on tag stuff, or you had mentioned kind of the tags, and that was one of the things that kind of came across my desk today, and I was like, that's kind of a neat storyline to kind of follow out.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of the trade stuff. I thought they were threatening him with the tag if they couldn't get a deal done to keep him long term. Obviously, he's going to want a multi-year deal.
Sure.
Yeah, but to say a trade too, that's interesting. Do you think? I mean, I can't imagine, but do you think Pittsburgh or San Fran would want to give up all those picks to go and get someone like Sneed? I mean, I'm one of the best corners available.
Can't pay him. We already took Casey's top corner a couple of years ago, who's been working out great, but we paid him instead.
As much as Pittsburgh is in dire, could absolutely use it. We have too many holes to fill. Like, we could not give up the draft capital. We could massage the imaginary cap to fit in basically anybody. We're in decent shape given how big the price tag did jump going into this year. But I unfortunately could not see Pittsburgh doing something, especially with the price that he's going to be carrying, just because we have just so many things to address right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we'll probably get into those in a few minutes.
That'll be something interesting to watch in KC, honestly, over the next few years, probably, because they've got all these super young players, especially on the defense, that are all basically going to hit contract time around the same time, and they've got their rings, right? So it's like the reverse. Instead of people going to ring chase and maybe taking a little deal, I've got the rings. I'm chasing money, especially, and they're not going to be able to keep all of them. I mean, they draft pretty well, so it shouldn't be a huge issue for them, but that'll be something to keep an eye on KC over the next few years.
For sure, and I think you'll say like conventional wisdom says that exactly what you're saying, but I feel like we've been saying this about the Chiefs for 2 years now. They just keep finding a way. We're going to have a bunch of rookies on $500,000 deals, and they're still going to become a top 5 defense because life's not fair.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, speaking of KC, again, Super Bowl champs, so kind of anything that they do, right? You want to take, but I mean, they did release Marquez Valdez-Scantling, so.
I mean,
again, doing exactly right. Get some guys that are kind of get them in there, get the production that they need, and then let them go. And they're gonna fill the void with, right. They'll take two who's gonna make $12 million, or at least $12 million against the cap. They'll take $2 million of that and sign like a couple dudes, and then use $10 million to roll it up into maybe signing Sneed long term, or Jones, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the freaking Patriots did for years, right? You've got the elite quarterback, and the weapons do not have to be elite because the quarterback will just make it work, and we're not going to pay big monies to wide receivers if we don't have to.
Even if they struggle in September, like what they had with Rice, like even if it takes them 3 months to get these guys online, that's okay. They can afford that. They have an easy division. They'll get their 12 wins. They'll make playoffs, and then as long as they get their stuff figured out by January, like
hope is the division's not easy anymore. But with Harbaugh down in LA, an actual known competent quantity as a coach with a very good QB and honestly a talented roster, it could make that division competitive. But that remains to be seen, of course. And I don't expect a ton on the Raiders or the Broncos, but.
I kind of do. I have some hope. Probably not winning the division, but I think they'll compete. And then, Denver, I don't know whatever Peyton and Russ and those guys got going on. We'll find out soon, I guess.
This is true.
Since we're talking tags, I think T. Higgins is the only one I've seen confirmed so far. I don't know if you guys have seen anyone else come through.
Nah, that's come across my desk now.
I've not.
T. Higgins makes sense. Him and Chase are an insane duo to have, so you want to keep that around as best you can.
Yeah, I'd love to see Burrow healthy again and see what that team can do. I think that could be a lot of fun. And then Josh Jacobs.
I nod in the sense that like I do like the thought of having competitive football, but like I am fine with either one of them not being there or Burrow being, not being what he can be. That's what I'll say.
Poor John. It's like, oh, my favorite little pet teams, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns sometimes. Yeah. You're patient. You're a saint. We appreciate it.
We try.
Yeah. But as far as tags, I just wanted to say Josh Jacobs, not expected to be tagged like he was last year. There's a lot of noise about his deal and potentially coming back and this and that. And sounds like in Las Vegas, that's probably not going to happen. Not on the horizon, it seems.
Yeah.
He reminded me, they tagged him and then they gave him like $1 million pay raise. That was the Saquon.
They gave him like a Barkley bump, I believe. They gave him the same thing, basically.
The Barkley bump. I like that.
Yeah, it's this weird little mutual agreement thing, I guess. But I think it was expected to kind of like, they're going to give him that bump and let him come back for one more year. And then I don't know who's going to pick him up or what that market's going to look like. A lot of good running backs set to hit free agency. So it's going to be a crazy year. But I think that's it as far as tags go that I've seen. I don't know, is there any, not contenders, but options for San Fran or Pittsburgh or candidates?
No, not really. I'm looking over like our free agents. There's nobody that's like, there's nobody we have on our roster where if we tag them that they're actually worth that amount of money that we'd be paying them on the tag.
Exactly.
Like Chase Young's the only quote-unquote candidate, but his market value is not as high as what the franchise tag would be, so that's not even worth it. So no, there's no candidate for that. Maybe some of the lesser tags we might use in some fashion, but I don't see us tagging anyone this time around.
No, Pittsburgh kind of same thing. We've got the guys that we want are locked in for what we need, and everything else is we're just kind of playing that juggling game of now again, right? Like we're not paying the franchise quarterback money, but trying to get a quarterback that we feel comfortable with on the roster is, I guess, where our starting point is right now, unfortunately.
How about the Raiders? Are they looking to tag anybody, you think? Tag Jacobs again?
No, I doubt it. I don't think there's anybody left there either. I think relatively simple offseason plan for the Raiders, at least kind of maybe we can get into it if you want to. But yeah,
sure.
Let's do it. Why not?
Right there. I don't think there's any other league.
There's
notables.
Report cards I thought were kind of fun. The NFLPA stuff that came out.
Let's save that afterwards. Or do you want to do them now? Because those were wild. Those were really cool.
Yeah, I really like the idea. All right, let's do it after. Let's get into the Raiders right quick. So I thought just to kind of look at like an offseason picture, I don't know exactly who they're targeting free agency, the draft, any of that sort of stuff yet, but just kind of where we're at heading into the next league new year. 38 million in cap space, which is I think 11th in the league, so good amount of money to spend.
Pretty good,
which is nice.
Yep.
And then looking at players losing on the defensive side, it's basically our interior defensive line: Jenkins, Bilal Nichols, Adam Butler, which is probably the weakest point on our roster, if I'm being honest. So I'm not too sad about any of those guys walking. It's a position that needs to be upgraded anyway. And towards the end of that season, they even had their first round pick, Tyree Wilson. They had moved him inside. And he was getting a bunch of snaps there. So I don't know if that's a long-term plan or if that was like an injury kind of contingency, but something to look at possibly. Bringing back all the edge rushers, all the linebackers, all the secondary apart from Amik Robertson, who I thought was good. He was effective, but he's not like a must-have. So it's kind of those guys that, if they can extend him, cool. If he walks, I'm not too beat up about it. And that's it. That's the entire defense, which is exciting. I can't remember the last time they returned. Basically,
that's
out of 11
impressive.
starters. Yeah, and seeing that, it's kind of like, okay, that's maybe why they wanted to keep Pierce and a lot of this defensive staff, because that's where the continuity is, and maybe can keep things rolling. That was the strength of the team, especially when he took over the last couple of months. So to see all that, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe they can keep that rolling. And then the flip side, looking at the offense, it becomes even more clear in my mind because that's where a lot of the players are leaving. So receivers, everybody's staying. That's it, basically. Colton Miller, left tackle, but Andre James at center, Van Vatten at right guard, and Illuminor at right tackle, all set to be free agents. And their backups, Parker and Grisseau, also set to be free agents. So, yeah, something needs to be figured out there. I think extending one or two of those guys probably a priority. Van Vatten's like 34 years old, but he played pretty well. So I'm not too sure about them. Illuminor, what he lacks in kind of top tier talent, he has in flexibility. He can play on both sides of the line, play swing tackle as well, kind of tight end 6 spot. So it'd be nice to see him back. But peeking Mike Clay's like top free agent list of this season, he's got both those guys, and it's kind of top 5 in their position groups for availability. So got to imagine it's going to be a big bidding war for those guys.
Yeah.
And while they're 11th in cap space, they can't afford all 3 of them. So got to imagine they're targeting 1 or 2 maybe, or maybe some other guys in free agency they'll come and they'll bring in to replace them. And then from there it gets, it stays crazy, I guess I should say, because Josh Jacobs, like we talked about, is most likely leaving. Amir Abdullah also at running back. Brandon Bolden is a free agent. At tight end, we got the kid we drafted last year, Michael Mayer's coming back, but Austin Hooper's gone. And then a couple dudes on the depth chart I've never heard of, they're leaving too. Fullback Jacob Johnson leaving.
Not the fullback. Oh, come on.
Yeah, tragic. Yeah. And then who am I missing? Oh yeah, quarterback. The least important spot in football. Obviously, they got to figure something out there. O'Connell's not the long-term answer. Garoppolo's
he's gone, right? At least him. Yeah.
I think not officially, but effectively, obviously, can't keep him. So yeah, they got a lot of spots to address on the O-line, tight end, basically everything but receiver, kind of feels like.
I mean, even there, like, are you comfortable with just Adams and Myers, like, as your only 2 options? I mean, Adams, obviously, that's who you want, but Myers had a decent season, but like he's not the guy for the number 2 spot, I wouldn't think, but.
Yeah, it's kind of those things where, if they find upgrades, great. I'm not going to complain about it, but I don't think it's priority for them just yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that slot spot, because Renfro's been weird. Trey Tucker, I don't know. But really kind of looking at all this, like there's a lot of names leaving, but kind of sitting down and thinking about it, I think a lot of these spots they can fill through the draft, I think might be their plan. Like running back, obviously just grab a couple guys late, whatever, doesn't matter. It's a running back spot. And receivers too, I feel like there's an abundance of them in college coming out. They can kind of do that. And then, either you draft a kind of tackle and let him develop a year possibly, or you just spend the money in free agency and bring someone in. But it seems pretty realistic to plug up a lot of those holes. Whether or not those players they identify are going to be the guys they need them to be, I think is kind of the difference between good teams and not so good teams. But at this point in the season, it's kind of like, this is actually doable. Like they could put together a solid roster. They could kind of make this thing work, to at least kind of start climbing out of the basement and into, the middle tiers, where they haven't been in a long, long time. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Raiders. It's interesting. I think it's doable. Where there's not a million pieces, but there's definitely some spots that need to be addressed, and that hopefully that kind of focus will make things a little more interesting in a couple weeks when we get into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raiders got a lot of. I mean, like, sounds like their roster is in a good spot, and it's just a matter of kind of rebuilding the offense almost entirely, from the sounds of it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't worry about the D and throw everything into the offense.
Yeah, it's like the 38 million mostly on the offense, and then maybe a DT or two, and then yeah, it's kind of like obviously things were so bad to start the season last year, but once McDaniels was gone, it's like maybe it wasn't so bad. Kind of like the GM was doing a decent job, and they got a new guy in there now. But yeah, it seems like there was some sort of long-term plan or vision, or maybe this got crazy lucky. I don't know, but it's cool. It's exciting. It's encouraging. What's going on in San Fran land?
Our free agent situation not as bad as I thought. We're losing. I mean, all right, we'll put it this way. I mean, we're not losing anyone just yet, but to start off, cap space wise, we're already $5 million in the red, so that's a good place to be. Definitely gonna have to move some money around, which we're no strangers to. We've done it before. So that I'm not worried about that. And $5 million, it's not a lot of money to try and find when you're trying to move some money around, change some guys' contracts, and our guys have usually been pretty agreeable about that kind of stuff. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Our biggest cap hit is going to be Trent Williams at $31.5 million. That's his cap number. Worth it.
I mean, it's still worth it, but it's just like it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's
like 2/3 of a Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. Second biggest hit is Debo at 28.6. That's his hit for projected hit. So that might be one worth shuffling some money around for. I love you, Debo, but you're not a $30 million kind of guy. So looking at our free agents that might be leaving that I would want to keep, honestly, Juwan Jennings, first one that comes to mind. I would love to keep him around. He's been clutch. Anyone who watched the Super Bowl understood that. Or actually anyone who watched the 49ers playoff games, because he was clutch in all three of those games. He's only 26. We were paying him pennies, so he's definitely worth some money. So I don't know if he's a priority for us to grab, or if we're just going to take a flyer on another late round receiver to try to fill that gap. But
gotta be hard to resist that temptation.
Yeah, he's been so good for us. I would love to see us try to make an effort to keep him. Ray McLeod, who has been our kick and punt returner, we're losing. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, he's done some good jobs as a rotational wide receiver when we've needed it, but certainly replaceable.
Kicking team's not really a highlight of that team, I feel like.
No. I said he's gotten a fair amount of snaps wide receiver, and he is a speedy guy, and we've used him in some gadget scenarios, but that's nothing that's not replaceable, I don't think. So we are losing our number 2 and number 3 tight end to free agency. I don't know if we'll make an effort to re-sign those guys. Obviously, we like running a lot of 22 and heavy personnel packages in the run game. So having those extra options is useful, but that's another late round flyer we could probably take for if we just need a big body tight end. There's plenty of those guys you can find. Sam Darnold, our backup quarterback, so we'll have to figure that out. Actually, Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen are 2 backup quarterbacks, so I'm sure we'll have to sign somebody there. Let's see. Yeah, Oren Burks, who is like our third linebacker, who's been important in a lot of our packages. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to keep him too, but once again, money's so tight, we might just try to fill almost all these spots with draft and figure it out.
You have a lot of picks this year?
We have 11.
Oh, that's a lot.
Of quite a few. So I think we'll be able to figure that out through the draft largely. Another one, originally starter Tashawn Gibson to free agency. which was kind of expected. He's 33 and a half. He's been playing well for us, but I do think Jair Brown, the rookie who stepped in for Hufanga partway through the season, would suit that role well as the free safety with Hufanga coming back and being the box safety. I think that tandem would work just fine. I don't think Brown was the best box safety. He was more than admirable in coverage, so I think we'd be happy to roll with that and let Gibson walk. You're looking for some DTs for the Raiders. We're losing a couple rotational guys.
Oh, I thought we were talking Hargrave.
No.
Not yet.
Javon Kinlaw and Kevin Givens, who get a fair amount of snaps. So if you're looking for
Kinlaw, that'd be an upgrade.
Yeah, you're looking for a big body in the middle, especially to help against the run game. You can do a lot worse than those guys, that's for sure. So I expect us to probably let them walk. I wouldn't be surprised if we tried to do something with Kinlaw. We've invested a lot in him and his development. He really came along this year, I feel. But if we let him walk and replace him in draft too, also not that crazy. Obviously, Chase Young and Clellan Farrell, our DNs, are going to hit free agency. I don't expect us to keep either of those guys. Other than that, a couple of rotational like DBs. So, yeah, free agency, I expect us to make a play for Juwan to keep him around. Other than that, I don't think we're going to go too hard, and we're going to look to the draft to backfill a lot of these just because of our cap situation. You have to free up, what do they say, like $7 million in cap just to sign your draft class, and that's
Something like that.
And that's with 7 picks as opposed to 11. So,
it probably goes up as the cap goes up and all that too.
Yeah. So,
couple extra bucks.
I actually have those numbers kind of broken down.
Oh yeah,
and I'll get into it. And it's just projected numbers for all of that stuff. But I do have that. I can harass you guys with that in a second.
So I don't expect us to make a splash in free agency, but I've said that before, and then we went out and got freaking Hargrave. So you never know. And
it was worth it.
Yeah, I'm happy with him. I would have liked more production, but honestly, I don't have any complaints ultimately. And we're still in the market for a defensive coordinator. We've interviewed, it sounds like, everybody.
Yeah, Twitter was really. I followed a lot of random fans, but there's some Chiefs fans that were not thrilled.
Yeah, we're interviewing one of the defensive assistants from KC, which I don't hate. I wouldn't mind
seem to
getting a little more
huge
exotic.
hand in their coverages, and there is a DB coach, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're like, do not let him go. Give him whatever he needs to stay. So I guess if you do end up poaching him, it could be something cool.
That would be interesting to get a Spags tree kind of defensive coordinator, which would be honestly a different look for our defense. And I don't know that that's the direction we want to go. But I don't think we don't have the personnel to do that. So, Staley was another one that we interviewed. Brandon Staley, who is technically a Shanahan tree guy already, coming from underneath McVay, and was a very good defensive coordinator under McVay. So I wouldn't hate that either. At this point, I feel like our defense largely runs itself as long as you understand what you've got and know how to use it. I'm not too worried about who we end up picking. I was satisfied with Wilkes. I think he definitely could have done better, but I think he also just kept it pretty simple. So didn't try to change too much up. And I wouldn't expect whoever they hire to do that either. So.
Yeah, it seems like Shanahan likes to keep a kind of some sort of control over all that, just in terms of
right
terminology and whatnot.
So, well, I would guess we announce a hiring on the DC front before free agency starts, but who knows? I did see saying don't expect Bill Belichick to come in as your DC, but I would absolutely take him. So
that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
It would have been funny if like Dan Quinn was available and Shanahan brought him as DC. That would get the band back together.
Oh, the turntables.
But that's about
So
it
it's
for
cool.
San Fran.
All in all, how do you feel? If you gave it had to give it a grade, how are things set up in anticipation of the new season?
Yeah, I mean it's still an A plus because I mean the core of our roster remains unchanged. We'll $5 million over the cap is more than manageable to be able to just roll with whoever we have and throw some rookie bodies in there. We're not losing anyone that's so crucial that what we're able to do as a team changes, right? I have the same exact expectations going into this year as I did going into last year. So, yeah, I feel pretty good. Yeah, roster is still an A plus roster.
Two more years of Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah.
Yeah, right on. That's awesome. I guess that leaves our Steelers.
So the Steelers are in a I want to say a good spot, but it's also a very odd spot. So we are now going into our second off season with GM Omar Khan, and for I don't know the last 10 years he's kind of been known as the cap guru. Like he was the guy that has kind of kept things, keeping us with above allowing Tomlin to put a roster on that's competitive, very competitive in one-score games. But I mean, again, our playoff success has not been great. With that said, I thought it was very interesting. Wasting no time at all, we immediately just start making cuts. So, as a quick reminder, we had as soon as after the Super Bowl, we had 19 unrestricted free agents. There was one exclusive rights free agent, but outside of that, we immediately cut Chukuma Okorafor, Mitch Trubisky, released our punter, and then what seems really awkward is on Friday, as I found as I was in Iceland, we cut ways with our center. We don't have a backup. We don't. We signed him to a 3-year deal. He was again 2022. He was okay. 2023, not great. And so instead of like basically having a contingency plan, we're just like, nah, we'll see a guy. Like, and so the Steelers currently like do not have a center on the roster. Like, we have some guys that could do it. And so that's just like, I find to be very interesting to kind of make these moves ahead of time. I don't like the idea of going into a draft with that like just that glaring hole open. But anyway, I mentioned all that because those moves ahead of time basically freed up $13 million in cap space, and with the cap jumping so high, much more than I had expected, the Steelers are already coming in $8.8 million in the black, which is cool.
Nice.
We have some breathing room. And the folks that are walking away again through free agency, the scariest thing is the fact that again, Mitch Trubisky gone, cut. Mason Rudolph, free agent. I guess we'll see what he can do. And I say that as like, I don't like this quarterback carousel that we're on. Like, we're not too. Kenny Pickett was healthy, and we chose to play the hot-handed Mason Rudolph into the playoffs. Ended up not getting the result that we wanted, but it's not at any fault of Mason's. That it's tough. It's a tough one. Like, I don't know who we're gonna bring in to compete with Kenny. Are we gonna Are we bringing in Jimmy G? Are we bringing in Kirk Cousins? Are we bringing in Ray Tannehill to meet back up with Art Smith? Who else have we been told that we were going to have? Trey Lance, an idea that someone is. So it's just like
I don't know about that one.
And I understand it, right? Like we have this like glaring need. Obviously, we only have one quarterback on the roster right now. But I'm sure we'll figure that out. That's actually does not what concerns. What concerns me is our secondary. So we thankfully our second round pick, which it was technically the 32nd pick, so end of the first. But Joey Porter Jr. Comes in and I mean again every bit of a stud as his dad was. I mean he is going to be our starting corner, which is great. Unfortunately, because we have so many free agents, old man Pat Pete is gonna have to. We're gonna have to pay this 34-year-old corner $6 million, but he has been a great veteran presence. Reminding everyone that the Steelers had lost 3 of our starting safeties, and he had to rotate out into being a safety at one point, and he did good.
Yeah.
He did all right.
Did you say it was $6 million?
Yeah.
I feel like that's not a ton.
So it's not it's not crazy, but I mean, he's old, and when you're paying, he's going to be your highest paid cornerback as probably the slowest guy in your secondary, who should probably not even be playing as a cornerback, but should actually be fully transitioned into a safety. It's just it makes it tough. Levi Wallace is going to be walking. Miles Killebrew, who you saw in the Pro Bowl, again, he's the one who made all the catches with the punt returns. Safety and special teams ace, again, set to hit free agency. Our other cornerback that we had kind of in a rotation, Chandon Sullivan. So like we have like our secondary, James Pierre, almost forgot about him. So like basically all of our cornerbacks are vanishing outside of our 2 starters. So that's gonna be what's gonna draw my attention, is that we have a glaring need at a quarterback in some way, shape, or form. We have no center on the roster, and all of our cornerbacks are going off to. Now again, our defense isn't really. I feel like you can find, middling, between 28 and 32-year-old corners who, get them pretty cheap to kind of fill as rotational players. Now, I say that because that's basically how we gimped our defense in the back half of the year with linebackers, because we have. Let me see. Quan Alexander, Marcus Golden, Blake Martinez. Again, all names that we've heard in the past when they were good players. Michael Walker, Chappelle Russell. I don't even know who that is. So we have 5 linebackers who we had to at one point sign to 1-year deals to kind of duct tape that position together. That they will be leaving into free agency. So. I had mentioned like we have a lot of needs, why we couldn't use the draft capital to bring in that a Snead position, because we unfortunately do have a lot of we're not necessarily, I mean, if you find good value, if you find studs, like that's awesome, but we're basically going to build up the middle of our defense with a bunch of mid-tier guys. Now, thankfully, we do have the cap to do so. I had mentioned earlier kind of like those future projections. So shout out to Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, who I think does probably the best job of breaking down the cap of like any resource that I know. Conveniently, he does the Steelers. But so they have it broken down. Approximately the 2024 rookie draft picks offsets is about $4 million. You're adding the bottom 2 players for the rule of 51 is about another $1.5 million. Your practice squad is about $4 million. You typically carry about $2 million for your injured reserve in case somebody does get hurt to bring somebody on. And then there's your injury replacement fund, which is an in-season number that you typically carry. So again, these are all estimates, about $6 million. So when you're saying about what those other costs are going to be for what you're looking for, that's kind of what that breaks down to on average numerically year to year for any given team. So I just thought that was a kind of a cool breakdown that he has.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so with all that, we do have so again, we're starting 8 million in the black after all of those kind of offsets and things like that. We're actually a little over approximately 9 million without like touching anybody, leaving everything as is. To bring on the rookie class and your practice squad, et cetera, et cetera. So with that being said, we do have some pretty prime targets. The biggest one that's kind of we don't know is wide receiver Allen Robinson II. He's estimated to make $10 million on the books for 2024. It's a lot of money to pay a receiver who, I mean,
I gotta say
I didn't hear
though,
his name called a whole lot.
the least amount of drama receiver on the whole roster. Nope.
There is something to be said about that.
Nobody complained about Allen Robinson outside of his production. That's it.
Nope. That is true. So that could be potentially $10 million in the bank. If we release him, like that's it. Like we're kind of covered outside of assuming like if we were to just use the draft, we have 7 draft picks to fill all those holes. That's what it could look like. Now, we are very good about how we utilize restructures. The team loves restructuring contracts for what it's worth. And a lot of our players are typically more than happy to do it for the sole fact that they are able to Pittsburgh pays out their contracts, and it just keeps them on the hook longer for more money down, the more years. So it's not like that they're not going to get their money at some point. So anyway, Alex Highsmith, Alex Highsmith, and one Cam Hayward are two kind of, again, we do invest a whole lot on our outside linebackers, our defensive line. And so that is those are some little piggy banks that we could tap into for probably, I don't know, another 12 million if we needed it. So again, caps we're okay. Pittsburgh's doing okay. We do have a lot of holes that are kind of how are we going to handle this? Again, I would like to point out that Omar Khan has done things a little differently. Again, very early in the start of this offseason, just letting guys go, like not playing really any games. Like, are we going to keep just nope. We're gonna basically show our cards. Yes, Pittsburgh needs a center. If you are a center who is looking for you could have a home, and not afraid to kind of show that we have these big gaps in our roster. I will say where that does scare me is under Kevin Colbert, our previous GM. That's how we ended up with picks like Kendrick Green, who was our center for Ben Roethlisberger's last year, which did not go so well. One Artie Burns. We had a glaring draft need for a cornerback, and we reached, and he was a bust. Like it is what it is. Najee Harris, again, this luxury pick we had these holes that we had to. So it does make me a little worried about the fact that in the past, when Pittsburgh has had needs, we did not draft best player available. We drafted for the need, and it has not been great as kind of the shape of what the team looks like right now. Again, kind of like middling in the aftermath of one Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm hoping that if there is the best center in the draft and we do have a chance, it makes sense. But are we going to have to end up picking like the third best center because we didn't have, we put ourselves in this situation. I hope not, but it could happen. So not the worst situation to be in. Again, the team fairly largely, staying together from what we were, and again, we were a playoff team.
That's true.
So
That's true.
For what that's worth, we'll see what we need to do to make a better roster to go into the next season.
So at this point, would you say, are you more excited for free agency or the draft?
I would say the draft. And I just because I can't see, I don't see us having enough comfort to really make a, we're gonna pull in guys that I've probably never heard of, and I'm gonna have to Google them, and it's like, oh, like they had decent careers here, like okay, like try and get myself excited.
On the highlight videos,
and then
Yep.
and then go in and fill in everything else like with the draft. Again, watching highlight videos.
right?
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think Pittsburgh always talks about building through the draft. A lot of teams do. So we've missed on a few too many, and that's kind of where I'm hoping we're going to be able to address some of the more overarching issues that we've seen. But it looks like last year's draft, again, first round pick, second round pick, again, immediate starters year one, and it looks like they're going to be carrying as those starters going forward. So, that's a win there. So.
Sick. I will say one addendum to my Niners analysis. As much as we might need to backfill some losses in free agency with draft, we desperately need O linemen, especially on the right side. It's brutal. So B plus downgrade until we fix that. But
well, I know some Raiders guys are going to be available. Ex-Raiders.
Hey,
names are they? Well, they'll be okay.
We've already got okay.
They're better than most. I think next week it might be fun to kind of get into some free agents from other teams and maybe guess or speculate what we're getting at. But there's one I just wanted to today. Russ Wilson. What do you?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
So is he a pre or post June 1st cut? Is that how they're going to do? I couldn't remember.
That's a great question. I do not know.
Because that could make a big difference on where he lands and how that plays out for him. Not that he couldn't like talk to other teams like in anticipation, like before that cut happens, but if he knows he's going to be cut.
So you think he's leaving then?
Absolutely. The way they did him dirty towards the end of that season.
I think if he, I don't know. I don't know how he could stay.
Yeah. I think they're gonna straight up cut him. Honestly, I don't think the Broncos are gonna keep him. I don't think you bench him the way they did if you had any intention of keeping him. And his contract's too big to like actually get any good trade value out of it. I think. Maybe somebody gives you a fourth for him, but I don't think anyone wants to pay him what he's gonna be owed.
Right, that's fair. I don't think that's a super hot take. But who do you think's in the market for him? Who would be willing to risk it, especially after the last couple seasons? They're so.
I just want to say the Commanders. I feel like
Raiders,
Commanders will take anything.
Commanders, Falcons, maybe.
Falcons, yeah.
Ooh.
I could see the Falcons doing it. Maybe the Titans, but they seem still hyped on Will Levis. I'm not completely convinced, but I could see him taking a like potential starter or like potential veteran like backup mentor role in like maybe Carolina.
True. I guess a lot of it's probably going to depend on how things shake out the next couple of weeks too, because some of these teams like the top free agents are like Cousins, Mayfield, Minshew, and it's like if they leave, then maybe Russ is going there.
Right. Plus,
hard to predict. Yeah.
Which quarterbacks get drafted and all that stuff too could impact that.
Yeah, for sure. I guess if he waits till after the draft, that'd be crazy.
would if he gets cut?
Yeah.
Is this the biggest like dead cap hit from a guy like?
Because I don't think the extension that they signed him to is even kicked in yet. Because I think he was still under contract with the Seahawks for a couple of years. So I don't think the extension they signed him to has even started.
Really? But whew. Interesting.
I'm pulling it up now. I gotta see.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, that's gotta be right. Because his base salary for 2023 was $8 million with a cap hit of $22 million, which is like that's reasonable. And then for 2024, it jumps to $35.5 million cap hit, and then a $55.5 million cap hit, and then it's just 50 plus for the rest of it. Yeah, it's a 5-year extension, which starts this year. So it's $85 million in dead cap.
Wow.
If they were to drop him, which is that's
How-
massive.
How do you handle that?
You try to find a trade for him, but I don't think anyone's gonna pay him the $35 million cap hit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just
Wow.
got to eat it. Like, what else? What's the other option? Besides trade,
How
like you
does
said.
that?
yeah.
Can you break up that money across other years?
I mean, probably. I mean, his signing bonus is only $10 million, but that looks like that's a spread already. I mean, you could certainly get creative, but ultimately you're going to have to pay him a butt ton of money, whether it's the Broncos that do it or whoever they fleece in a trade for it is going to end up having to pay him.
That is crazy, man. Yeah, 85 mil in dead cap for a single player.
It's
How?
like a third of the salary cap.
There's
Ugh.
they didn't put in an out until year 4, which would be 2026.
That's insanity.
Or sorry, touch on 2026, not necessarily year 4, but yeah. Which even that is still would be 31 in dead cap, 31 mil. So it's a bad contract.
For the team.
Yeah, Russ getting paid. Russ is doing just fine.
He did
He's added another
it
bathroom
fine.
onto his house.
Yeah.
No, I feel bad for us because honestly, I think this past year he's playing much better this year than he was last year, which under Sean Payton makes a modicum of sense. And I don't think the team's failings were Russ Wilson's fault at all. That defense completely disappeared. It was lights out last year and nowhere to be found this year, at least for the first 3 quarters of the year. It kind of came on a bit towards the end, but it was too little too late, so it didn't matter.
It makes me wonder if it's still fallout from all the Hackett year and all that weird stuff with the office he had and all this weird, something about the culture.
There's got to be a personal issue.
We don't know.
Yeah. So the dude could still play, I think, and I think he's capable of playing at a high level under the in the right system. But that's not an $85 million flyer you take kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely agree.
I'm sure he'll land somewhere. It's hard to speculate where though until free agency and maybe even the draft shakes out where he might land. I don't know that he's definitely not guaranteed a starter job. I don't think at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he is, just between his age and his contract.
Well, the Raiders need a quarterback, right?
They sure do. They've got space. I don't think Wilson's the answer, but yeah, I mean, I'd take that over the Fields speculated trades. That's been driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Goodness.
Fields also playing in Pittsburgh too, so he's going to be playing for the Raiders and Pittsburgh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did Pittsburgh pick up a coach from Chicago too? Is that?
Oh, we did not
connect the dots.
We did not, but yeah, no, they're saying that Tomlin really they've had good conversations or something. I hate this. That is by far the worst part of this is hearing people try and make stories of like making these connections. Oh, like at their pro days 10 years ago, they had.
Matter.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it so much.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago's going to be an interesting one to watch, given their draft position and their team condition. No idea what they're going to do or what they're thinking.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a wild card. I think it'll be fun to see what they do at quarterback. I can't imagine they're planning on sticking with Fields. They got to be one of those teams in the mix. But
Dude, I don't know. Is Caleb Williams really the answer though? Like,
I could not tell you. I don't even tell you what Caleb Williams looks like.
he's a USC quarterback, which the most successful USC quarterback ever is Carson Palmer. That does not stop people from drafting USC quarterbacks constantly. They do, and they just end up doing nothing. Except for Carson. We love you.
Where did Josh Allen play? Like Wyoming or some shit?
Yeah, exactly. And from what I don't follow college a lot. From what I've heard, Caleb Williams had a pretty down year this year. And is already saying stuff like, "Oh, I don't want to play for the Bears" or something like that. Like, you don't really get the choice in the matter, Eli. Like,
there was someone who was like, "If I don't like the team at the number one spot, I'm not going to enter the draft."
That was Caleb Williams.
It was okay.
Yeah, and he's entering the draft anyways, so they called his bluff basically.
Yeah, that was some funny news, but yeah, I can't imagine someone would actually just go back into college for another year, not make a dime, risk injury, just because you don't want to, pull an Eli, not play for the Chargers. Yeah, that'd be insane.
With the NIL, you can make some money now at least, so it's not like you make nothing playing in college. And EA just announced they're doing a college football video game.
I got a buddy who's been he took a week off of work so he can play the NCAA football game.
Let's go to that guy.
What's interesting is it's not called NCAA. It's I think it's just called college football. I wonder what the licensing issues there are, or if the NFL just said we could do this without paying the NCAA any freaking money because of NIL. We can just pay the players and maybe the schools for their logos and be done with it.
Plus all the conference nonsense going on, like the Pac-12 dying. Like every year they're realigning, so it kind of makes some sense to like not slap the SEC on there because who knows. Right.
So there's money to be made in college. So maybe if he had stayed, who knows? But yeah, I mean,
fair enough.
You got to take if you're still a first round prospect, you got to run with it because one more year in college you could drop out of the first round completely. Happened to Brock Purdy. He wasn't necessarily first round, but he was not a 7th round prospect after his junior year. It's pretty high.
Yeah, so I think in my mind, like those stories, they're funny, like they're good headlines, but I don't think anyone's too serious about it.
No,
for sure.
I guess we'll see. What about those report cards? NFLPA report cards. I guess
let's talk Let's talk grades.
It's the second year, I guess, the PA has been trying to promote their players by publishing these huge surveys. I guess they poll all their players about the food and team facilities and the weight rooms and how much they like their head coach and what else was it, like their family assistants, like all sorts of stuff that the players would care about. And I think to try and both help them make free agent decisions and which teams might help them, and also to pressure ownership to spend a little more money and try and make these things a little bit nicer for some of the players. But any surprises, Pittsburgh or San Fran, you guys saw? I think the Raiders came back pretty clean, which was nice to see.
I was surprised for as much as people want to play in Pittsburgh. There were 2 Fs on that report card and 2 Ds on that report card.
Wow.
And that was kind of shocking. I don't know. I guess I thought Pittsburgh better than I guess I don't know, maybe of what they are, but yeah, their ownership was given an F.
Yikes.
For what?
That's
locker
harsh.
Room in F. Now again, I don't think it's the locker room, like I don't know, I think it's like the actual conditions of the locker room.
Yeah, so the Raiders, they specifically said that the size of the entire locker room was adequate and the size of the individual lockers were adequate. That's like the specific question they were asking them.
Wow.
So the players feel cramped in Pittsburgh's locker room. You heard it here first.
They did take that the hit on the families, but apparently for Pittsburgh that they are one of 4 teams that do not provide their players' families with either a family room or daycare on game day. So
Interesting.
yeah, I just thought that was kind of a, I don't know.
Like a suite or two they usually reserve for families or something. I wonder. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea. And then yeah, just the Art Rooney II getting an F. Just not I don't know. I figured as from such a stable organization, I would have expected better, but not so much.
Yeah,
Something to watch.
that is kind of funny that the players just kind of call the owner out. It's like, nah, he sucks.
Right? That is.
I didn't
that
see
is
what the
very
criteria was for ownership or why they might say that. Is it just excessive sirs and misters or like?
And those seem like
what
new
is-
categories this year. I don't think they asked about those last year. Ownership and head coach were not on the 2023 cards.
It does say that when considering his willingness to invest in the facilities.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's
Oh.
the specific prompt that that gives him that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners had pretty glowing scores across the board. A's, B's, couple C's. C in training room was their lowest one, which was interesting. And team travel was just a C plus.
Gotta get a pair of those 757s that Kraft
Yeah, right.
has. Yeah.
Head coach and ownership A and A minus respectively. So I'll take that.
All right.
But I was just kind of looking at like compared to last year, did we improve anything? Like last year got a B plus in treatment of families, up to an A minus this year for second in the NFL. So
the system works. There you go.
They took notice, yeah.
Yeah.
Although let's see, weight room was an A minus last year, and down to a B plus this year. So I mean, clearly some things are dropping off too. The training room is exactly the same, so no change there. Yeah, it's interesting to see some of this stuff kind of move a little bit though in one way or the other. Team travel was an A minus last year. It is a C plus this year too. So I wonder what changed.
New schedules had further to go.
Yeah.
More flying. I think the Raiders, the two things that stood out were the coach was F minus because these surveys were conducted before McDaniels got canned.
That's funny.
And they were very quick to let everybody know that. And then the other one was the weight room stuff. I think one of the questions like adequate one-on-one time or like are you comfortable with like the training or certification and whatnot of the trainers in there? And the Raiders got really good grades. And I say that's surprising because I was listening to an interview from Kelechi Osemele when he left the Raiders a couple of years ago. That was when Gruden was still there. And that was like, he spent like probably 15 minutes in the interview trashing a lot of the team culture and like the guys they had in the weight room and some of those trainers and whatnot, and saying like they weren't certified, they didn't know what they were doing, it was dangerous, it was this, it was that. He was very unhappy with it. Didn't name names, but if you just look up who was there at the time, it's the coach's son. It's not a huge surprise.
Yeah.
But he's still with the team. He never got fired.
Oh, really?
And the players seem to love him. So it's kind of funny how it's, you hear these things in interviews and you're like, okay, this is like insider info. This is the juicy gossip. And you see a couple years later, maybe not so much, or the attitudes have really changed, or maybe the dude just went and got certified. I don't know. But it's, it's kind of those things that just goes against the opinions you might hear just from players in interviews. So yeah, I thought that was fun.
Isn't that the same weight room that Chandler Jones was upset that he couldn't get into?
The very same.
Right. Okay. Just maybe
his interviews responses got recorded in this. Maybe they should get thrown out.
Thank goodness.
Oh man, I forgot about that
guy. Hope he's doing okay.
Been a year. I hope so too.
Out of curiosity, because last year the Cardinals scored abysmally across like almost every category. I just want to see if they took note, because they scored like last year they had 5 Fs, even some F minuses, which is impressive. This year they're down to 2 Fs, just locker room and ownership. So everything else looked to have either come up or stay the same. So.
Well, good for you, Arizona.
The system's working.
Yeah,
System is working.
I don't know. I like the PA doing this. It's kind of fun to get a little insight, and it's also a time of the year where nothing's really happening, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
it
a
up.
good one.
But I think that's all I had this week. I don't know if you guys have caught anything else.
No, I mean, that's
No,
all I've got.
I think
Yeah.
we got as much as we could.
I'm excited to get into free agency. I think we'll have one more right before the actual League New Year opens up. Season 3 coming up soon.
That's right.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Season 3, baby!
This is just an epilogue or a prologue, however you want to look at it.
I don't know.
It could
We'll
be
figure
both.
it out before next season. Yeah. And likewise, trivia. I got nothing.
No, I mean, I've got the Steelers book. Didn't we? I think we even announced one last week, and I don't even remember what it was. 2 weeks
Yeah, I
ago.
don't know
2
either.
weeks ago.
I think we didn't, because we knew we were going to be taking a break.
That's true. Let me see if there's anything good in here. I'm not seeing anything league appropriate. All right, we're gonna have to. We'll have to wait.
We'll double up next week. We'll make it up to you.
We'll make it up.
That's
Yep.
right.
For the people. You know what? Because we don't get Fs on this podcast.
That's right.
We
That
get 2
doesn't
Fs
happen here.
and a C.
We listen to the people.
C's get degrees.
That's right.
That's it. All right, well, it's been fun. Appreciate everyone listening, and probably catch you all next week then.
We'll see ya.